Welcome to the Beach Brothers Show, Virginia business and politics. It's time to get beachy. Conrad is our political analyst and master chess instructor. So contact Conrad to appear on our show. Jose Cruz is our bilingual beach bully, our bilingual business bully. Contact him to feature your business on our show. I'm Seko, Varner. I have consulting, entertainment, and credit repair services. I produce the Beach Brothers Show. We want to give a salute to Tally and Twine. It's time for you to have a high quality watch made in Virginia, made in Portsmouth, Virginia, from Tally and Twine. We want to say thanks to Southern Volkswagen Greenbrier for their great level of sponsorship. If you need a new car, you don't need to go far. Southern Volkswagen Greenbrier. And ladies, if you want your brows to say, wow, check out IamLitaWee.com. Microblading by IamLitaWee.com. I'm Seko Varner. I do credit fixes, tax resolutions. I lend private money to real estate investors, and we do debt consolidations. If you need any of these services, contact me as provided. And now it's time to get beachy on the Beach Brothers Show. All right, it's time to get beachy, And today we have Bro Con. How you doing, Conrad Chesviner? We have Paul Telkamp. That's right. And we have Mr. Marcus Calabrese. And Marcus is kind of new to the show, but he's always been behind the show. So, Marcus, why don't we start with you before, because, you know, Paul's been on the show, Conrad and I are Beach Brothers. What do you do in the realm of politics before we get started in our conversation?
I always try to tell people I do pretty much whatever it takes to try to manipulate politicians to do the good we want them to do in the first place. So sometimes that might be, creating a job fair. Maybe that might be creating a program where they reach out to seniors, a food drive, or even just creating a new way that they engage with business owners. It can be any of that. So it really just depends. But I've been doing that for a while now. So, but that's pretty much just what I tell people, whether it's running the campaign or whether it's working with an elected official who might not even be campaigning at the time. Maybe they're just trying to do some good and maybe trying to repair their name or build their name for whatever's coming next. But either way, I'm going to try to get them to do what we hope they would do.
All right, great. So in other words, he's a campaign manager. And he's actually
the campaign manager, operative, strategist. I get a lot of inspiration from David Axelrod, so maybe he'll watch this.
That's a good one to follow.
Yeah.
And sporting a Black Lives Matters flag is Mr. Paul Telkamp. Paul, you just ran for the school board, right?
Yes, I did.
All right. And we're going to have the chance to talk to you about your experience running for the school board. As you know, I ran for the school board back in the day as well, 2018. And Conrad, you just came off of an interesting race, brother.
Quite interesting, and I would probably say my best showing in the 3 total times that I've run for city council. About, as of now, 51,500 votes that went my way just a couple of days ago in the Rose Hall City Council race in Virginia Beach, and I had a ball doing it.
Wow. 3 times. You've run 3 times. Good stuff. Well, today we're going to kind of discuss losers.
I'm not going to put the Titans up.
Hey, man, we're going to discuss the losing races that happened in, Virginia Beach. And actually, since we have Marcus, we're going to discuss some of the losing races that happened in other parts of the fair areas of Hampton Roads. So let's start with Virginia Beach Mayor. We had Bobby Dyer as a winner. Jody Wagner came in second, and RK came in third, notably. All right. Any thoughts? Why did it turn out this way? What do you think? Let's start with Marcus, man. Why did Bobby Dyer win so beautifully?
Bobby is Mayor Dyer is a very different type of politician, in that he's really not a politician at all. Full disclosure, I was on the team and was happy to be on the team. He's not someone that you can turn into a politician. He's been elected for a long time and had a track record in that public service that is really hard to really attack. Plus, as mayor, you look at even just the short 2 terms, the 2 years he's had, that half a term, he literally has exceeded expectations in really just about every dynamic. Whether you look at the tragedy that happened back in May, just a year ago, whether you look at the coronavirus and what it's done to the economy and tourism in Virginia Beach, he literally has surpassed expectations. And it's not just that people like him, but people feel like they know him. And so when you have someone who literally I always say this, you have a lot of politicians who will take the photo, but not take the time. Bobby Dyer will take the time. And so it's really hard to try to pitch him as someone who doesn't, so and that's worth more than, because he's been outspent both times, this time and the previous time he ran for mayor when it was a special election. He was tremendously outspent and still won in huge numbers. So I think that just that alone has a lot to do with it.
All right. What says you, Conrad, our Politico?
I am a little bit curious because I remembered that his opponent from the last time, who was able to outspend him, did help him this time. What is it, or at least might be in your opinion, Mr. Marcus, that would attract whom he had already defeated to want to support him this time? Because I don't particularly know. I mean, they were opponents.
Well, and again, full disclosure, because again, it's public record. It's financially reported. I helped try to help Ben Davenport a little bit last time, but I think, and I haven't talked to Ben Davenport about this, but I'm willing to bet that Ben Davenport jumped on with Bobby Dyer because, again, you have someone who is the epitome of public service. You have someone who. People always say, don't let a good tragedy or whatever go to waste. Not only did Bobby Dyer not use it for political gain, he literally showed his heart and his soul and his compassion for the city. And it wasn't fake. It wasn't forged. It wasn't coached. That's worth more than money. And so I could imagine almost any opponent jumping on behind him, because you have Democrats and Republicans that liked him. You had a lot of Black pastors. You had a lot of Asian pastors. You had a lot of minority business owners. You had a lot of Tea Partiers. So it was literally a broad coalition that backed him. So sometimes elected officials, and in this case, like I say, he was a public servant, they just have a track record that money can't buy or beat.
In that instance, it would be like a competition of 2 distinct great coalitions, because Jody did have hers, but that was more of a larger state apparatus.
Yeah.
As you touched on, he had a lot of broad support, and I would point that out based on, if you just eliminate the fact that both Jody and Bobby had a party support from the city, that is going to right off the bat generate a certain level of base support for either side. It's something that pushes you over winning total requires other support that you would get beside the party itself. And Bobby is noted for able to get the HRBC and the BBA PAC. He did not get BBA PACE because that was Jody, which I would point out that probably helped her push her numbers close to about 94,000 versus the total that Bobby got, which is about 111,000. I think those respective totals were helped to be instigated beyond just the aspect of the party support, but the other parts of the communities that support. And you'd probably be quite accurate. He got some multiple pronged aspects to help boost his numbers.
Well, we're here to really kind of talk about the losing candidates as well. So what happened with the fair Jody Wagner? You know, she had a lot of money. She had a lot of support, but she didn't get the votes.
Is money overrated?
No, money's never overrated. It's on how you spend it. And I like Jody Wagner. I was called Secretary Wagner. That was her title. I like her a lot. I just think they tried more of a partisan race, it looked like to me. And it wasn't based on heavy topics, considering that she was in two administrations at the state level under Mark Warner and Tim Kaine. I think you would have almost expected more of a robust, big ideas, big solutions, here's how we're going to do it type of approach. That didn't happen. And instead, she just tried to necessarily challenge the mayor. I don't think it should have been about challenging the mayor. It should have been more about challenging the city to go further. I think if she could have literally ran a race that not only thanked the mayor for his service, but she could have painted a picture of what she could do better instead of trying to take him on. I don't think in this kind of political climate, I don't think that's what people wanted to see, not in local level. We already see that between Trump and Biden and all of that. And we saw that in the Democratic primary, and it's exhausting. People want something different. Bobby Dyer is the epitome of different. So I think that was a bit of a misstep in trying to challenge him in a way, instead of challenging the city to say, well, here's how we're going to go a step further. I don't think that happened.
Well, do you think the red wave had anything to do with it? You know, President Trump just spoke about the red wave. And, you know, Conrad, you even mentioned that the Republicans seem to have a pretty good response tonight. You know, you said that Republicans did amazingly in Virginia Beach municipal races.
Yep.
As a matter of fact, you left this comment out on Facebook. I have to find it. You know, I don't really enjoy Facebook that much, so I have a copy of it. But you went through some details I thought were pretty interesting. But do you think there was a red wave?
I want to try to phrase it the way I was thinking earlier in the day. There was a blue wave, as you can see by the Virginia Beach vote totals for the presidency. If you compare the Trump voters in 2016 to 2020, there was a bit of he actually did gain some, but the Democrats gained a heck of a lot more in order for Biden to win the city of Virginia Beach. Mark Warner won the city of Virginia Beach. Elaine Loria won the city of Virginia Beach. Then there's a drop-off. It's the drop-off, and I think the drop-off happens mainly for how the municipal races handled themselves. Because I think I did some rough numbers earlier in the day, that there was about an average top of the ticket Democrat haul of about 114,000 for the winners. If you averaged out the presidency, the Senate race, and the Congress race, and then the same rough estimate of the winners for the broadly Republican municipal races was about 111,000. So they're very similar in terms of the winner amounts. It's just the parties flipped when you start with the mayor race. So how did that happen? And that is probably something that could be worth discussion, because I wouldn't say that there was a red wave, because if it did, Biden would not have won the city of Virginia Beach. Loria would not have won the city of Virginia Beach. Mark Warner would not have won the city of Virginia Beach.
All right. Andrea Dixon says, yes, it was. I don't know if she was saying yes, it was a red wave, or yes, it was a blue wave back in the day. But Andrea Dixon.
Probably meaning nationally, because if I'm looking at nationally, Republicans have gained a decent amount of the House seats, and they're looking like they're going to hold the Senate. So it didn't seem like it was a big national blue wave like even I thought it might be.
All right. Well, we talked about we talked about Jody. We talked about, Bobby. Let's go down. Let's go to your race, Conrad. Unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on what side of the platform you're on, you lost. Why did Marcus? Marcus. Why do you think Conrad had such a hard time fighting the incumbent Michael Bertolucci?
I've known Conrad for a few years, and if there's one thing that I'm very proud to say is that Conrad has become an increasingly better candidate. And I love how he participates in in our democracy every chance he gets. And I'm a little bit protective of Conrad, which Conrad has seen himself. But again, full disclosure, last year I worked with Michael Bertolucci. I didn't work with him this year. But Michael is a very dynamic candidate. He did raise a lot of money. He's a very dynamic candidate, and he's an effective councilman. He is. Conrad didn't have literally almost any money to even get his message out. And that it's not that money always makes a difference, makes the difference, but money makes a difference. So Conrad wasn't able to share any ideas through a mailer or even through a lot of social media ads. That being said, the increase in votes that Conrad did get, yes, some of that was because he was on the Democratic ballot, which is a testament to his candidacy. But at the same time, a lot of those votes were because Conrad is Conrad. Add to that the coronavirus. Conrad wasn't able to get out there and really do anything. So when you have a talented candidate running against an effective candidate who's already an incumbent with a lot of money, it's a special version of political hell in a way. Yeah. So I think that's the only reason why Conrad did lower numbers than what he was planning on. But I think eventually Conrad's going to win. I think it's just a matter of the race and a matter of time. But again, money doesn't make the difference, but it makes a difference. And Conrad didn't have anything, and there was really nowhere he could go to try to outwork an incumbent that's popular and well funded.
And what says you, Paul?
So I think a couple of things that actually came up was there was the VBEA ballot guide, the VBDC ballot guide, and I think the two of those competed against each other and split some of that vote. I also think that one of the things that really impacted Conrad's race was that you had a third person running in that race, and that helps to split the vote. So when you've got a popular opponent like Bertolucci and you got a good candidate like Conrad, it's really going to come down to splitting hairs if people are just picking between the two. But when you add in that third person and they're able to suck away votes from Conrad, it really affects them. And I've mentioned to Conrad that there was a lot of the VBEA ballot guides that were handed out instead of the VBDC ballot guides. And when they did that, that also took away approximately 35,000 votes, not only from my race, but from Conrad's and from Brandon Hutchins, because the VBA ballot guide looked so close to the VBDC ballot guide in terms of how they looked.
So you're saying sucked away votes? Would you? I'm under the impression that every vote is earned. So Gary got 26,335 votes. He earned those somehow. I don't know how he earned them, but he earned them. I don't think he sucked them away from Conrad. Conrad earned 50,595 votes. I don't think he sucked those from anybody.
No,
man.
What I want to clear up there is that if it's a two-person race, then you're gonna get the votes you get. But when you have a third person in the race, you're going to have some vote splitting for better or worse, Gary ran his race, but if he'd have dropped out, there's potential that those votes would have gone straight to Conrad.
Well, you say split, but let me see. Bertolucci's a Republican.
Yep.
Mhm.
Conrad's a Democrat.
Mhm.
And we have no idea what Gary is. Gary was not on the Democrat recommended ballot. He wasn't on the Republican recommended ballot. So
No,
we had an R on the top, we have a D on the bottom, and we have an NPA, no party affiliation. Or we don't know. I don't know what he is. He's a good guy.
He does have a bit of a progressive background, or at least came off of that the past couple of years. Because remember, he did try to run in the 2018 congressional primary on the Democrat side.
He was on their recommended ballot?
No, I meant he has attempted before to run for office as a Democrat.
Yes.
Do most people know that?
Not much.
So
No.
I don't see the splitting of votes. People who
here's what I would like to contend. If you give me a second.
right.
The Rose Hall race is interesting to look at if you hold in your mind both the city council race and the school board race. There might be some Republicans who would like to think, okay, don't go for Conrad because he's crazy. He's too much into talking about progressivism and equity and stuff like that. I would equally have the flag of Black Lives Matter behind me as well, and that would turn off Republicans, or at least that's what you might think. Someone else who is very progressive and leading the fight on equity is Jessica Owens. And Jessica Owens handily won her race in Rose Hall, and she got over 102,000 votes for that. That's only about 4,000 off from what Bellucci got. They had some qualities that they were able to share, and that they're both nice people, genial, well-respected in the community. They also were able to receive their respective party support. Democrat got the, Jessica Owens got the Democrat support, Michael Bellucci got the Republican support, so you got that base. Then they all pretty much share the same type of endorsements beyond the party. Both got VBA PACE, both got HRBC, both got VBA PAC. So they have a group of support that's beyond just the party support. And if you compare that to, say, Jessica Owens' opponent, Joe Moran, she was able to get about 80,000 votes, if I recall. And if you add Gary's and mine's together, it's only about 1,000 off of that respective total.
Well, then the question to me is, like, how many, red till I'm dead Republicans do we have in Virginia Beach? How many of them are definitely, that's all they're going to do is vote Republican?
At least
75,000. The whole thing here is that, for the district races, there's going to be a lot of people that stop voting. I mean, if you just count the number of votes, the numbers drop off as you get further down the ballot. And the red team, as far as Joanne, Jen, and all them, they were on that Republican ballot guide.
Yeah.
So,
Jennifer Franklin was on the Republican ballot guide.
She won.
Luis Cortez, he lost.
Yep. But if you look, he's got about the same number of votes.
Mm-hmm.
And so does Vicky. The only thing that happened in Jen's race with Dan is that Dan was just unpopular. He'd been on the board for so many years, and he was unpopular. People wanted a change.
Yeah, he seemed like the low-hanging fruit, maybe.
Probably.
Or, Jennifer was more exciting. I listened to Jennifer. She was exciting to listen to. She sounded like she had her heart for it. I just didn't get that from Dan. Now I know Dan. I've talked with Dan. I've talked with Dan numerous times. Good guy. I actually think when I got a chance to interview him as a part of the Hampton Roads Black Caucus, and when I got a chance to interview him with Virginia Beach AAPAC, he knows his stuff.
Yeah.
But he also is known for falling asleep during the school board meetings. Yeah. Oh, somebody says okay. Owens has also been busting her butt in school board meetings, and the public sees that.
I would agree
Yeah.
with that. Yeah.
Yes.
She probably would have been a lot more active if it wasn't for COVID.
Well, she got over 100,000 votes, didn't she?
Yes.
Yeah.
So that means that she received Republican and Democrat and NPA votes.
Yeah, I would say there's probably a good 20 to 30,000 easy of overlap in any given direction. They could go Democrat one way, they can go Republican one way, depending on how they were approached at the polls, perhaps, what they saw in the week going up, what they researched. For instance, I happen to be on the Virginia Progressive Voter Guide for this state, and they brought up the Virginia Beach races. I happened to get on that. I heard about 3 to 4 people in my weeks leading up to the election who had mentioned they saw me on that. So I like to think a lot more also did, and that helped me get to 51,500. Of course, that would also have been something that Jessica shared, and we were both in the same district, but remember, we're also at large. So the entire city is exposed to us on every one of their ballots. So there has to be a reason why there is a disparity. We effectively had a mirror image in Rose Hall. Republican and Democrat switched depending on school board versus city council. I wouldn't necessarily say it's the person's policies.
Well, that's a big difference. That's a big difference, and you're right, Paul. Joanna, she did get that 80,000 votes, and you're saying that's the base. That's the R base here.
Yep.
Huh.
Marcus might be able to touch on the description of their R base.
I've worked with both parties, Democrat and Republican, and I like to really kind of help get a lot of that crossover vote. So I know Jessica a little bit. I worked with her for a little while last year, and her heart.
Can you say that out loud?
Hmm?
Can you say that out loud? Have you been?
Marcus is rogue.
Yeah, well, it's public record. I can't hide from it. But at the same time, I talked to a senior elected Democrat, kind of one of the godmothers of local politics and state politics. And I asked her, I said, if you were running, does it matter more to you if someone is a Democrat or if they have a winning record? And she looked at me and she said, a winning record. And so I've been very fortunate that by and large, working with Democrats and working with Republicans, I have a winning record. And that's not all on me. I've been very fortunate to have some very good candidates. Yes, I've had some losses. I don't want to talk about those too much, but the wins are really, I think, really a testament to how often you can get independent voters to come to your side. And there are Republicans who are willing to vote for a Democrat. They don't always have to agree with the Democrat, but they want to know. I'll put it like this. There's a documentary on Amazon called, I think it's called My Friend the Mayor or something. It's a small town of Pennsylvania that Trump won back in 2016. But in 2018, they elected a Democratic gay mayor. So totally, there's a total polar opposites. But a lot of the Republicans in that documentary were talking about the differences locally. It comes to someone who they know can and will do the job. So there are Republicans, especially locally, who are willing to switch over and vote for a Democrat if they feel like they'll do the job. And like everyone was just saying, you guys said you can see Jessica works really hard on school board. Well,
yep.
That becomes a major factor when it comes to people voting and switching over. Just like Bobby Dyer and Conrad, you're right. You have Mark
like Berlucci.
Yeah, with Berlucci, and especially you were mentioning Biden and Mark Warner, and And Elaine Luria won and did extremely well in Virginia Beach. Well, so did Bobby Dyer, and they are not on the same ticket, you know. So, it does come down to that crossover sometimes, and it just depends on how some moderate and just some hard Republicans feel when it comes to voting for someone on the other side. If they feel like you can do the job, sometimes you can get them to cross over and check your name. They might not tell other people that they did it.
Yeah.
They might not tell anybody.
Now, I think you have a pretty interesting point in your commentary, Conrad, when you say that if you're recommended by a major Virginia Beach party, you'll be promoted well and be competitive. And if you get key significant city organization endorsements, you can crack that 100,000 vote metric. And then you gave examples of, I think it was interesting that you said that Bill Dale was outperformed by Abbott, but Bill Dale had the police benevolent, PVA.
Yep.
Eric Ray had the PVA, and Sabrina smacked him again.
Yeah, she did. Plus, I think that there's a little bit of an outlier regarding specifically Jessica Abbott, because she also didn't get, noticeable endorsements I recall from her were the VBA PAC, but she did not get HRBC. She did not get VBEA PACE because Bill Dale did. And she is the highest accumulated vote total of all the municipal races, if I recall, like over 5,000 more than the mayor did. And she had how much less money than the mayor did? Like $150,000 less. So there is a solid base, but there's also some version of your wits and ability to do something maybe on your own, because she seemed like a very individual candidate compared to the other Republicans in this year's ticket in the city. Because I would compare Bellucci, Rosemary Wilson, Bobby Dyer as the prototypical Republican in Virginia Beach that had over 108,000 vote totals. They all got over $100,000 raised. They cleaned up on VBA PACE, HRBC, VBA, PAC. So they got the same type of support. They got the same amount of vote totals. They raised the same amount of money. The one that won, outperformed all of them, is the one who did not get the same amount of otherwise known as support. Didn't get the money and didn't get those key groups. So she is a bit of an outlier compared to the ones I would compare her to.
So we really can't talk about why Bill Dale lost because Jessica Abbott is such an outlier.
Yeah, because Bill Dale got VBA PACE and the police, but I think he also got HRBC, if I recall. So he did get some good endorsements as well. And I think he eclipsed 80,000 as well. But there's just something in that 20 to 30,000 that spoke to voters to push toward Jessica in the same city that overwhelmingly went for Biden and Elaine Luria and Mark Warner. So,
well, you're a great political mind. Go ahead, Paul.
I think one of the things that helped Jessica is her age. She's a young candidate, and she seems a lot more energetic than Bill was when she was participating. So you could, feel the energy coming from her versus Bill, who was well spoken but didn't seem to have a lot of energy.
What do you think, Marcus?
Yeah, I think Jessica Abbott is just that good. I think
she's got some bad chops.
When she ran her first time, she did extremely well. And I think the only person who outpaced her that time was Will Sessoms, who was the mayor and spent a fortune. But Jessica Abbott is just that good. And she's another one of those effective, middle of the road, get the job done type of candidates. And even though she is more on the Republican side, I think it's kind of the flip side. I think a lot of Democrats really like her. because she's not polarizing. She's not a type of negative person. She's very much out of the box. So she doesn't necessarily have to be, and I've seen this be the case too, sometimes to switch over and get Democrats. You don't have to be liberal or radical, but you have to be out the box. You have to have, like Paul was saying, that energy. You have to have those new ideas. Yeah, being well spoken is nice and that's wonderful, and the endorsements are great. But if people don't feel like you have the energy to live up to what you talk about when it comes to their issues, doesn't matter.
All right, well, let's get to the heart of the matter. Why did Eric Ray lose again?
And again. And again.
And again.
Well, I'm going to point this out again. He got the 80,000 mark on his votes. That's the diehard Republican vote.
He also got the police.
Watermark for this election for a Republican was 80,000. Anything over that was a metric on how popular you are in this area.
That's true. That's true.
Yo, salute Kim Bentley. Oh, that's hilarious.
I would want to give some respect to the ability of Sabrina to build a team, because I like to think I follow politics, and I followed a lot more local politics in the past 3 years than I did pretty much all the years prior to that. And as we know, I ran 3 times. A lot of people don't remember my first time was actually against Eric and Sabrina when I lived in Centerville. Back then, I only got like 7,800 votes. And in 2018, in which was a very well-attended and turned out midterm election for Congress, if I recall, Eric got about 43,000 votes and Sabrina got about 83,000 votes. So he damn near doubled his, but she only added about 20 to 22,000, which means there's a diminishing return. I guess after a while, if you're going to flood the city with so much overall turnout, even Eric Ray is going to greatly increase his vote totals. And I think Sabrina in her own right is kind of popular too. She doesn't seem like she strikes anyone the wrong way, unless you yourself were kind of, very, very partisan.
All right, Brian says this panel gives expert commentary on losing. That's for sure.
What does he know about winning?
Oh my God. Well, I mean, okay, so Brian's point is, I didn't win my school board race. Paul didn't win his school board race, and Conrad didn't win his races. So, so Brian, yeah, and Brian, we want you to tap in, man. Tap in. Give us some other comments. Brian just had a good win with. He was also working with you, right? With Bobby Dyer.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah, so I have nothing bad to say about Brian, except he doesn't return my phone calls. So I'll leave it at that. Thank you, Brian. He's busy and he wins, so hey.
Hey, he accumulates W's. Can't hold that.
Since obviously Brian is watching, I'll say this: I did beat Brian in one.
Oh, okay. Look at you.
How you doing, Brian?
All right, but Eric Ray, let's talk about the article that he released on Sabrina Wooten. Did that hurt him at all?
Probably,
yes. Yeah, because nobody else running except for Dyer and the fraternal, the police association, that's the only 2 negative ads that even came out at all. Like, nobody else ran a negative campaign in this city. And I think that hurt Eric. Like, he got the watermark for the Republican votes. They did vote the entire ticket. But the fact that he can
Dedicated
get past
viewer.
that, people don't like the negative.
That part. People don't like to know. I have to admit,
There are also two different ways they were negative. Because when Bobby would try to negatively go after Jody, Jody is a bit of an unknown, except her known is, state politics. So you try to hit her on being too much with state as opposed to local. And the big hip thing as a Republican in 2020 is to castigate Democrats as too defund the policey, and they're going to turn Virginia Beach into Portland and Seattle and something like that. And that's the hint of that type of ad, was to try to make it like that. Of course, this is why Brian should be on. If he wants to add this, he should be a commentator here.
You know what? I think I may just send Brian a message to link on with us, because that might be fun. That might be fun.
Great.
But if you compare the type of negative that Mr. Ray did, his was aimed specifically at Sabrina Wooten.
Mm-hmm.
He was really going after her, and that's a different type of negative. Negative versus the potential policy, and Bobby Dyer versus Jody Wagner. Negative as a person against Sabrina, and that would probably turn a lot of people off.
Well, and I will say this too, and when Seko comes back, I would, I don't know if he'd want to chime in, but one of the different things is, and I did see that video, and it was hard hitting. And I don't know Eric Ray, and I don't really know Sabrina. I've crossed paths with both of them a few times, and that's the extent of what I know them. But I don't think there are a lot of Black Democrats who liked seeing, especially in the age of right now with the race relations that we had, and then the fact that we have Kamala Harris on the national ticket. I know that there's a lot of Black Democrats who didn't want to see a Black man going after a Black woman like that. Not to say if it was true or not, I don't know. I don't really care. It's none of my business. But I didn't like to see that. I know that that's true because I've had other conversations about it. And it was a little bit much. It was different from Mayor Dyer going against Secretary Wagner saying, hey, we don't like how she stands on this police issue, or vice versa. Eric's video was personal. It was very personal, and it was direct. There's a difference between going negative about an issue, negative about a tone, negative about the essence of politics itself. But it was a bit too nasty to be local. And again, I don't think I don't think a lot of Black Democrats wanted to see that.
I didn't like his nicknames either, Luton with Wooten and stuff.
Yeah.
Do with some of the forums, just it rubs you the wrong way.
That's exactly right. That comment from Kim is exactly right.
All right, interesting. Yeah, and you know what? I have to admit, when I saw the ad, well, actually, before I saw the ad, he released some narrative. No, it was ad first. He released the ad, and I was like, "What are you doing?"
Yeah,
this is something that happened in the high school years. It's kind of interesting because I started seeing how people kind of responded to it. My good friend Andy Bond said, you're bringing up stuff that happened in her past, but in her response to it, she said that the business pressed the biggest charges that they could on her. And Andy said, that sounds to me like she's really not taking responsibility for what she did as a teenager. So it was really interesting watching how people responded to that. But nobody said that it was a good idea. I didn't see that.
No.
I didn't see on any side. I didn't see anybody saying, great.
But I think that Sabrina handled it really eloquently by turning it around, explaining the narrative, and not even bothering to acknowledge anything else about Eric. Like the fact that she just ignored him said more than anything else.
Yeah, it's a good way to put it. It's sort of like Eric knew he was chasing her the entire time. Sabrina knew that she was winning the entire time. And so she just ran to try to hype what she wanted to do, what she has already done, what she wants to do. And none of that involved Eric.
Yep.
Well, one of the things that I think is interesting is the way this came out. I need to share it. He put out another ad where he said that, that he will not defund the police, but Sabrina would. He would oppose tax increases, Sabrina would not. He defends constitutional rights, Sabrina would not. You can see it. I don't have to read everything. I thought that was off kilter as well, because I haven't heard her say defund the police.
She was explicitly against the concept of defund the police at multiple forums that we both were attending.
Yes, I was like, Eric, dude, that's a lie, man. Why you doing? And I like Eric. He's a cool dude to me. I mean, he's a. I get along with Eric. I'll put
But
and I really want to
Eric is a fantastic speaker.
Yes.
And he's very good on the campaign trail, but he spends entirely too much time catering to the base of the Republican Party. There's absolutely no crossover appeal to Eric. And again, I mean, he's a small business owner, which is great. A great speaker, which is great. He's good on the trail. That's wonderful. But he just stays to that one audience, and it's sad because as someone who's run before and lost, I ran in a May election and a special election, and I wouldn't recommend that to anybody.
Okay, so we have 4 losers on the show today.
But yes, yeah. So, but anyway, no, he just caters too much to the depth of that base, and it doesn't rise to anything.
Okay. So let's go here. Let's go to the school board. And this is where we find you, Mr. Paul.
Yep.
Explain this. Explain this, sir. Explain this.
So the thing that I can tell you is, if you look, the first thing I'm going to point out again is that watermark for Vicky. That 80,000 votes is straight Republican. She's not popular otherwise. They wouldn't have voted for her if she hadn't been on that ballot guide. And that's why she didn't recruit other Republicans to run with her, because she knew that she'd lose. If they'd had 2 Republicans on the ballot guide, it would have been Beverly and whoever the other person is. As far as me and Lauren and Doc, it all comes down to, I got the endorsement from the VBDC. Lauren got the endorsement from the VBEA. Doc got a couple from like the AA PAC and some other stuff. So, there wasn't like a whole bunch of people going, these are the perfect 2 people that we're going to all support. I think that if Lauren had dropped out when she didn't get the BBDC ballot recommendation, Doc would have dropped out, and it would have been me and Beverly. And I got a lot of people that, when we were talking, they were seriously, frustrated by the fact that it was going to split the ticket. Like, we knew that months ago. And a lot of the, passing out that VBEA ballot guide, it hurt. It hurt me in terms of us being able to build a coalition in order to really get Vicky out of office.
I would say it only hurt you because you weren't on it.
Yeah. No, I know. And, there was a bunch of good candidates, but we need unity. Brandon's right. We need unity, but they don't have it. The Republicans can get everybody to vote at straight party line, get the 80,000 votes. That's going to set your, watermark. The Democrats are all over the place. They don't support one another. They don't work together. Everything is fend for yourself. I mean, look at Vicky, Lewis, Jen, and Joanne. They almost all got 80,000 votes. They ran together. They all got the same amount of vote.
They were all on the same sign.
Together at the party.
You're absolutely right. They all got, let me see, Luis got 81,000.
Yep.
Salute, Luis. That's my dude.
Yep.
That's one of my dudes. I like him. All right. Jennifer Franklin.
Big props to her.
Yeah.
So, again,
so what happened with Jennifer? Because she killed, she went more bigger than the 81 or the 80,000.
Because
she's at 99.
It was Dan. Dan was the problem with that seat.
Okay. And Joanna Moran, she almost got to 80. Oh, by the way, Brian says he can't join us right now. He's being a father. So I salute that. And maybe he actually returned my call. I feel good about that. All right. So, but I'm listening to what you're saying there. I'm listening to what you're saying. But Lauren, was she on the blue ticket?
No.
She was on the base ticket.
Okay, was she on? And so she's not on the blue ticket. She wasn't on the VBEA.
Yeah, she was.
Lauren was on the VBEA.
Oh, she was on the VBEA. But did she get the Hampton Roads Black Caucus nod?
Yeah, that would be me and Beverly.
And did she get the APAC nod?
No, because that would have been Beverly and Doc.
But would you say that it's important if someone like who else is running as a member of the VBDC's sample ballot is also handing out the VBA PACE? That's going to cut right off the bat someone who might otherwise go for just the VBDC.
Okay, Kim is going in. Kim is going in.
The fact that there was Democrats that were specifically calling me out as not qualified because of my background, not having a master's degree, that was sad to even see that coming out. It's like, look, we need to have people that are of all different education levels. We need to have people that are all different age levels, and we need to make sure that we're inclusive in terms of what we're doing. The school board does not try to graduate everybody to college. We have trades within the school system, and we should be able to have people that understand what that means and how important that is to help kids fall into those trades.
Take it from me, a master's is overrated.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm a master at my craft. I am not overrated.
I'm not. No. I think that the problem is if you're looking at office, the number of if you're trying to be the top at your profession, yes, it matters. It matters how much education you have and how much you've done and how far you've gone. When you're talking politics and you're talking about trying to run a board, anyone can sit on that board. I mean, Mark Zuckerberg, Bill Gates.
Good points.
There are a lot of tech CEOs that never finish college.
Well, it's public office for a reason. It's supposed to represent the people, and not all the people are going to be experts.
Well, I think it's important that we share what you just stated. When I was running for the school board, a lot of people would say, well, how are you qualified to run for the school board? Do you have a doctorate degree? Do you have a master's degree? I said, you don't need to have a degree to run for the school board. And people were aghast. They were like, huh, really? I said, look, you don't have to have a blue collar job. Really? People don't realize what the requirements are to serve. If you want to serve, go ahead and serve. There might be some judicial requirements, like you can't be a felon or, maybe something like that. But other than that, anybody, you can have the shoe shiner, you can have the owner of the shoe store.
You don't even have to be able to balance the checkbook to be on the school board. You can ask the school board member.
Hey, quick, let's go to the one that kind of hurt us in the heart a little bit. That board has not shown any education. Yo, salute Scott Hall. Scott is becoming one of the new Beachers. We like you, man. We like you, Scott. Welcome to the Beachers. All right, Rosemary Wilson, she pulled it out and she got over 100K. Brandon, 71.
Yep.
Nadine, 20. Make it make sense.
I would like to give props right off the bat to Nadine, because we had her on the show, and everyone had a disadvantage for not being able to fully express themselves due to COVID, right? So this type of avenue is great to get out, but she also didn't have that much other supports. Naturally, she wasn't on one of the parties that Paul and I would be, or Rosemary would be, or Brandon would be. And to my knowledge, she got one endorsement. I think it was VBA PAC. Otherwise, it's a split of endorsements that Brandon would get versus Rosemary. But I would also note that Rosemary got a lot more.
I tell you, I was in the meetings with Rosemary with the Virginia Beach AA PAC, and I was in the interview with the Hampton Roads Black Caucus. And Rosemary knows what she's talking about.
Well seasoned.
She knows what she's talking about. And, even though somebody might call that chicanery or, but how does she get those votes? Or better yet, why did Brandon lose? That's the question. So, that's what people are asking me. Why didn't he get the AAPAC endorsement? Why didn't he get the HRBC endorsement? Did he get the VBEA endorsement?
No.
Okay. Did he get the police
VBEA
endorsement?
Ballot guide was passed out instead of the VBDC ballot guide in some locations.
So that sounds like that hurt you kind of deeply there, brother.
Well, it would also hurt Brandon, and it would also hurt me.
It hurt me, Brandon, and Conrad, because all three of us were on the VBDC ballot guide, but not on the VBEA ballot guide. And the fact that we have, pictures of Democrats handing out the VBEA ballot guide. Go look at the school board reaction when was it Tuesday night. The picture is Bev Anderson, and she's holding the VBEA ballot guide. She's not passing out the VBDC ballot guide. She's passing out the VBEA ballot guide. And that right there, it hurts the Democrat Party when we're not unified enough to support everybody on the entire ticket. And you take the number of votes that Lauren got, you add that to Conrad and Brandon, and you remove those from Rosemary and Michael Berlucci, it's a totally different race.
Okay.
At least
So was Rosemary on the red ticket?
Yes.
So she started off with 80,000 votes.
Right off the bat. Like I said, there's when you think about Bobby Dyer, Berlucci, and Rosemary Wilson, they're very similar types of Republicans. And Dyer and Wilson at least have over a decade's worth of experience to also help back them up. But even with that, Rosemary Wilson in the city council race by only 1,000 votes got more than Berlucci did. And Jessica Abbott, only there for 4 years, got 10,000 more than them. So there's the base, but the variance of what it takes to win is itself something that changes.
All right, well, I'm bringing back up your point, Conrad. Your point is, if you have a major party endorsement, so if you're a Republican, you're going to start off with at least 80,000 votes. So what's the number with Dems? What are the Democrat numbers? If Conrad's a Democrat, what number should he have started off with?
That's a good question.
You used my numbers as a base because every single Democrat got at least 43,000, and it only goes up from there. So you take out
that part. That part.
Race.
I gotta say something. I love Brandon Hutchins. I hope he's still watching. And so again, it's not a public record. I did help Rosemary this time go around. I did work with Brandon Hutchins last year.
So it's your fault.
I don't want to vent. So I want to say this real carefully. When I helped Brandon last year, and actually we talked with one of your guests previously. I can't think of her name off the top of my head right now, but she was going to run earlier this year too. And they were laughing at Brandon. I had no idea who Brandon was, and they were just laughing at his Facebook page and totally disregarding who he was last year. And so I had a conversation with him. We met later that day, and I told him, I said, give me 3 months. I said, either I can get you on the Democratic ballot, or I'll at least turn you into a rising star. And so within 3 months, we made a lot of noise. Brandon was and is an amazing candidate. His energy is absolutely abnormal. His ability to turn a room is, I've never seen it before. And he is authentic all the way through. And so this year, I will say, Brandon was mismanaged. He's not the type of candidate that you can, I don't want to say this in a bad way. I have a candidate sitting on the other side, or a former client sitting on the other side of this table behind the camera. He's not the kind of candidate, Brandon is not the kind of candidate that you can politically train. I see Paul laughing. But he's not. Brandon, and Brandon has an amazing background. He's a combat veteran, a small business owner, family guy through and through, ready to get involved in the community at the drop of a dime. So he really should not have been pigeonholed to strictly any type of Democratic message. Brandon has tremendous crossover appeal, and that was not tapped into at all. And I know that because working with Rosemary, I was hoping that they wouldn't figure that out. In a competitive side, but personally, I was kind of sad to see that they didn't tap into that. You didn't hear any radio or social media ads or anything about a combat veteran running. You didn't hear anything about that. And there are a lot of Republicans and Democrats and just veterans and independents who love that. And, he's not just a small business owner. Anyone can say they're a small business owner, but it's a family-owned business, And there's a funny story years ago, and Brandon would never let me tell it when I was working with him last year. It's an old story. Wavy covered it. There was some guys vandalizing mailboxes in a neighborhood in Virginia Beach years ago, and Brandon chased them with a baseball bat. And that's, while that might seem trivial, that's in the age of political bullying, you want the guy with the baseball bat chasing the bad guys, you know. And they didn't tell that story. So from a competitive advantage, I'm kind of glad that they didn't. But as a friend of Brandon's, it hurt my heart to see that they didn't do him justice. He definitely should have done better. And I definitely hope he'll run again. Plus, and Brandon's been very transparent on his social media. It's been a hard year for him. It's been a hell of a year. So yeah. So the reason, and I will say this, and forgive me for being. I hope it's not too much to say. But Brandon was mismanaged. He was mismanaged. Again, pandemic. He wasn't able to campaign. He wasn't able to do a lot. He wasn't able to raise that much money. Brandon's energy is worth money alone. But you take all of that, I still don't think he would have won because the pandemic limited the challengers. So he still would have had a very small window to do anything with, but he absolutely would have done better. And he should have been allowed to do better. And that hurt me to see that.
I'd also point out that he did happen to get a decent chunk of endorsements from individual people who are of prominence, but he did not get organizations that are of prominence besides the BBDC.
And I think a lot of that has to go to Rosemary, in the sense that Rosemary does have a track record with her constituencies. She does. Like Seko was saying, she knows her information. That she does. She knows where the solutions are. She knows where to find them, and she's willing to go and get them. So yeah. And I think Rosemary had a lot of the institutions wrapped up because they know her, and they know. She had an event that I was at, and she had members of the Democratic Party coming in, and they interrupted her to praise her for her work in education. So again, you would have had that crossover appeal. But yeah, I didn't mean to cut you off, Conrad. But I think a lot of that institutional knowledge and track record goes to Rosemary Wilson. So
interesting. Yeah. Brandon's a friend of the show. Brandon's a friend of mine, and we were hoping for some good things for Brandon. And now Rosemary's effective.
I don't think you heard the last of Brandon.
I would really like Brandon to stay in.
Yeah.
I admit I donated to him and tried to help him out. He's a really good friend overall. And I think a voice like his definitely would have been nice to also have another young guy too.
Yeah. All right. Well, we talked about the winners. We talked about the losers. And Andrea Dixon was going to pop in and talk about this close race that Biden and Trump are having. I think, Conrad, you're going to give her points. And I can also say that if either one of those tickets would have listened to those of us who had three things we were looking for, which was immigration policy that valued American citizens first. Making sure that whomever harmed somebody gets punished. And lastly, that the descendants of American enslavement receive some due for the work of their ancestors. Both of them would have gotten a lot better. Both teams, both tickets gave us, Biden gave us the Lift Every Voice plan, and Trump gave us the Platinum plan, and both of them were laughable and insulting. I think that, yeah, and I would say that if either one of those tickets would have done something different, it may not be as close. But what did Andrew want to say?
To paraphrase a little bit of her wording, because she did prepare something for me to read off. I also would like to recollect a phrase that you would hear from the Reagan administration when he was talking about his brand of conservatism is trying to be bold colors as opposed to pale pastels. So when you're running in a race where you have a pretty good chance of running against a very unpopular Republican, do you want to just run out the clock? Or would you like to be bold with inspired ideas that is exceptionally different and something that speaks to something that you hadn't really heard before? And is that something that you heard with the Biden campaign? Not that I immediately recall. If I could get a little bit more into her wordings, why is the election so close right now? Easy. Biden didn't offer anything for the people to vote for so much as just against. Pelosi is playing bad political chess, and in an anti-Trump election, Democrats lost House seats and couldn't turn the Senate. Trump was smart enough at least to attempt to speak to people, even if most of it was rhetoric. And with all of Trump's failings, he gained in pretty much every demographic from 2016, except white men, where he actually went down a little bit.
It went down. Yeah, that's crazy. That kind of blew me away. I wasn't surprised that other people said, you know what, Biden, Harris, we didn't want Harris from the beginning. We let you know that in the primary. And we weren't really rocking with Biden. And then Biden never, so except for the people who were true Democrats, and those of y'all who were true Democrats, you guys showed up. And then the people who just didn't want Trump, they showed up. But people who could have made a change, neither one of them wanted to work.
I gotta chime in a little bit, if that's okay. I know he was a long shot, but I was given the opportunity to be part of Tom Steyer's team. I was the state communications director, and at first I was back and forth with Michael Bloomberg's campaign, which was tempting. But the one thing that I can say about some of these candidates, one, I really liked Julian Castro, and Andrew Yang, Elizabeth Warren. Tom Steyer's plans. I wish if Democrats, if voters in general were to actually look at the plans, and even just, you don't have to necessarily research them, but to literally just look at some of the basics of these candidates' plans. Tom Steyer had some wonderful ways of looking at things.
I did. Yeah, I like Tom. He may have made me vote for a Democrat.
Right. And, the way he talked about climate change and compared it to low-income housing, things that you wouldn't have thought of. His plan for HBCUs is so well thought out. And I think if people would have understood that he wasn't just some billionaire, he was a billionaire who built a bank that invests in minority businesses and minority communities. That's someone that we could really use right now, in an economic situation that we have. But anyway, my point is, I wish that in general, we looked at more of these candidates just a little bit more, because I hear what you're saying about Biden. I think you're right. But anyway, I just had to chime in for Tom Steyer.
Well, I think that Tom would have done well. I also think that it's a shame that we don't know more about the other people who are running. All we heard about was Biden and Trump. And, on our show, we did get a chance to interview Jade Simmons, and Jade Simmons brought a very compelling presence. I just think that, and Joe Jorgensen, the Libertarian, she brought a very compelling presence, and both of them were women. So if, women would have known about Jade Simmons or Joe Jorgensen, I think it would have been different. But it seemed like they were just kind of pushed back. They didn't get to shine. And I think that happens in the Green Party. I didn't know who Howie was. You brought up that somebody voted for Howie. I saw the name because I did learn about the other parties that were out there, but I really didn't know much about Howie. So he wasn't even on my radar. I was like, I'm either voting for Biden, Trump, Jade Simmons, or Joe Jorgensen. And Biden's not giving me what I want. Trump's not giving me what I want. I got to do something different. If I would have known about Howie, he might have been in my mixture.
Think of it this way a little bit. Let's hypothetical out. We just had prominent Republicans this year support Biden because Trump is the Republican. Imagine if the Republican right now was Kasich. Would he have had a lot more turnout the way Trump did compared to 2016? Because Trump not only turned out 2016, he added the 2016 by a lot. There is something that Trump does that speaks to a Republican base that's different than what other Republicans can do. Biden's probably going to win this, but he'll win it close because there's just a little bit more Democrats overall anyway. He's still running against this, electoral college system, but he still might be able to pull it off. Imagine if all that same type of Democrat support wasn't behind Biden, but Jade Simmons. What if she had run on the ticket? What could she have said that would have been different that could then inspire much more Democrat turnout? Then that is what becomes the actual blue wave, not just competing waves at the same time. Because with this massive amount of early voting, that instigated both sides to want to come out more than they usually would have. And Trump overperformed himself even when he had everything going against him because the economy fell a bit. It actually fell a lot and then increased a little bit. Had hundreds of thousands of people dying because of COVID that you could probably directly blame to his actions, or at least that's how it's portrayed. And Biden only did this much.
Yeah, that's the intriguing thing. That's the intriguing thing.
Yeah, I think that, when you look at the difference between the Democrats that are establishment and the progressives, you see that the progressives won a lot more and a lot higher percentage than the old establishment because they're running the same game they've been running for the last 30 years, which is we're going to play the safe card. We're going to not put out anything bold. We're not going to do anything that shakes, anything up. We just want to keep things the way they are. And people don't want that. People want change. And that's why Kasich couldn't beat Trump. He was doing the same thing. He was not giving any excitement to the people to get anything done. Like, people want to hear that we're going to have bold actions. And we've got to stop thinking, that bold actions are bad. It's going to take us bold actions to get a lot of change.
So it's pretty bold of you to have Black Lives Matter flag in Virginia Beach, brother. Last words, Conrad.
Politics is a game of likability. And let's say there's a little bit of a drop-off if you compare Barack Obama's 2012 election to his 2008 election, because he personified what we think of in terms of bold and change at the same time in 2008. That's the type of machine the Democrats should run, not beyond just running for president, but also running for Senate, running for Congress, running for mayor, running for city council, running for school board. They should be that aggressive.
Brother Paul, last words.
I mean, I think we've definitely got to get unity within the party, and we've got to get people that want to actually get Democrats elected if we're gonna get there. Because if we can't all coalesce around the people that are chosen, it's not going to happen.
I wanted to highlight something that Andrea Dixon provided before we let Marcus have last words. Neither candidate polices were accurately reflected in the winning ballot measures. I think she meant policies.
Yeah, policies.
Okay. She must be on her phone.
Probably, yeah.
I'm not going to read it. She must be on her phone.
Progressive policies won while moderates and centrist ones failed. And then when 72% of Fox viewers are considered government healthcare, you have to reconsider your marketing overall.
Good point. Brother Calabrese, what's good? Last words.
I'm going to use Tiffany Boyle, the Commissioner of Revenue in Newport News, when she won her election 3 years ago, she said a line that I wish I could take credit for. She said, politics in its purest form is about the people. And that's what it is. And that kind of reflects what Paul is saying too, when he said progressives are winning. It's the unconventional candidates. That's what we need. Both parties are addicted to this permission-based political campaigning, and it's killing us. Yes, I do want Joe Biden to win, but Julian Castro, Tom Steyer, Elizabeth Warren, Amy Klobuchar, they were all credible, all talented, and all capable, and significantly younger. I personally don't think anyone in their 70s needs to be running a country with a new pandemic, with new technology, new challenges. It's just not smart. Nobody can tell me that it is. But I would say we need the unconventional. We need not just new, but we need someone who has a plan. Mayor Bobby Dyer is an unconventional mayor. He is. You have Jessica Abbott. She's very unconventional in that she's younger. She has tremendous crossover appeal. David Nygaard. David's a special case, but when David won, he was unconventional. He was a former Republican, former poster child for Republicans, Regent University, straight conservative up and down, then became a reformed Republican on Obamacare, a single parent with 6 kids, taking care of his elderly father. So the unconventional is what we need. We need unconventional people with a plan. So, but anyway, but that goes back to what, like I said, Tiffany Boyle, Commissioner of Revenue, Newport News, is right. Politics in its purest form is about the people, and if we did that, then maybe Jade Simmons would have had a shot. Maybe Joe Jorgensen would have had a shot. If we could get out of that permission-based politics.
Yep.
Understood. Well, Conrad, let's close off. You drove wherever you are in a beautiful car. Tell us about that.
Well, this great political year, I even drove myself crazy sometimes, but I did drive myself safe with a little Volkswagen Jetta that I got at Southern Volkswagen in Chesapeake, Virginia, 1248 South Military Highway. Make sure if you want to drive yourself safe while you also drive yourself crazy, you got to go to Southern Volkswagen in Chesapeake and speak with Cynthia Rawlings, Charlie Roy, and then drive safe.
All right, and with that, I'm simply going to say, if you are one, be one. Thank you, Paul. Thank you, Marcus, for your insights. Brother Conrad, thank you for running again. The fact that you are, that wasn't a joke. All right, the fact that you, okay, we're laughing. We're doing that. All right, the fact that you would put yourself out on the auction block, if you will, and say, hey, I really want to support the city that I love, speaks rings. And you doubled your numbers. You're doing well, sir. We're proud of you.
Thank you.
All right. Well, hey, good night, everybody. Thank you for watching another great episode of the Beach Brothers Show. This show was brought to you by Positive Vibes Incorporated, our consulting services. We do credit fixes. We do tax resolution. We lend private money and debt consolidation. So if you need some of these services, we're waiting here for you. Credit fixes, tax resolutions, private money, and debt consolidation. Make sure you call Positive Vibes Incorporated.